There's a place in your heart, and I know that it is love. And this place is much brighter than tomorrow. And if you really try, you'll find there's no need to cry. In this place, you feel there's no hurt or sorrow. There are ways to get there if you care enough for the living. Make a little space, make a better place, heal the world, make it a better place for you and for me and the entire human race. There are people dying. If you care enough for the living, make a better place for you and for me.
You can WhatsApp or call us on 0200 092925.
And this place is much brighter than tomorrow.
A place for education, a place for information, a place for enlightenment. This is ỌDADEƐ Health Matters, live here in the studios of ỌDADEƐ Radio. And of course, this is where we educate you and we shine the light on all the topical health issues that plague our communities. And so this beautiful Wednesday afternoon, we come your way again to educate you on a very important topic, on an issue that has been plaguing the youth, not just the youth. Previously, hitherto, we used to think this was a condition of the elderly and of people suffering from chronic diseases. Unfortunately, way too many people and way too many young people are affected by this very condition. What am I talking about? I'm talking about kidney disease. And I'll share the story of a young man that I met just about 2 years ago, 29-year-old. I saw him and then he was in tears. I needed to find out why, as the Christian gentleman that I am. And the story was pretty simple. I would say it's pretty simple, but it's actually very complex and a very sad one at that. A young man who had just completed school, I think he completed when he was just about 25, started work, got into one of the most prestigious places, companies that could work about. You could work in, began to earn a lot of money, and he felt like he had actually achieved his dream. Sadly, he was hit with kidney disease. And this meant that he had to be coming for dialysis about 3 times every week. It was not just the fact that he had to spend a lot of money in treating this illness, but it was also the burden that it came with, the fact that he had to always leave home and come to the hospital, be in the hospital, be on medications for a very long time. And this man was in tears. He said no matter what he does, no matter the amount of money that he earns, it is never going to be enough to help him get rid of this disease. He had only 2 options. Either he goes abroad and go and have a renal transplant, that is, have a kidney transplant, or continue to have the dialysis. Thankfully, we have specialists who are able to carry out these transplants in Ghana now. It is good news, but we want to, of course, prevent kidney disease from coming in the first place. And today we have an ỌDADEƐ in our midst, a son of the land, a legendary one at that, of course. I came in the year 2008. He had left by then, but by the time I got to Presec, I'd already heard his name. It was reverberating across and echoing across the walls of Presec. I wouldn't want to waste too much time, but before I do, let me just talk about the fact that ỌDADEƐ Radio and ỌDADEƐ Health Matter, ỌDADEƐ Health Matters for that matter, is a very interactive show. You can send your questions, your suggestions, and all your views to our WhatsApp number 02000 925. Sorry, I think I got that wrong, right? Yeah, so it's 02000 925. I'll take the number again, 02000 925. This broadcast is live on our YouTube page at ỌDADEƐ Radio. You can also listen to us via Zeno FM radio app, zeno.fm/ỌDADEƐ Radio. You can also download our ỌDADEƐ Radio app from the Google Play Store or the Apple App Store and listen to us each and every Wednesday at 2 p.m. as we bring you topical health issues. You can also listen to us on Facebook at ỌDADEƐ Radio. Send in your questions, send in your comments, send in your suggestions. So yes, we know our topic for today, kidney disease, an emerging epidemic. I don't know if I would even call it emerging because it's already here with us. We know our topic. It is time to get to know our guest for today. an ỌDADEɛ, like I already mentioned, a very proud one that I'm proud of too, one that everyone is proud of too. I'm talking about ỌDADEƐ Abdul Jalil Inusa. I remember when we won our umbrella just last year, they began to recount and go over the list of names, the people, the science students who made PRESEC what it was. And I mean, I remember someone mentioned ỌDADEɛ Abdul Jalil Inusa, ỌDADEɛ Reza, ỌDADEɛ Big P, ỌDADEɛ Kutin. I mean, anyone who's been in PRESEC and who is followed Brilla would have heard this name, ỌDADEɛ Abdul Jalil Inusa. ỌDADEɛ Abdul Jalil Inusa is a senior physician specialist and a nephrologist currently with the renal unit of the department, the internal medicine department of the Kolebu Teaching Hospital. He is a fellow of the International Society of Nephrology and is a regular reviewer of the African Journal of Nephrology as well. ỌDADEɛ Dr. Abdul Jalil Inusa, you are welcome to ỌDADEɛ Radio.
Thank you very much, ỌDADEɛ. I'm quite flattered by the introductions. It's good to be back here after so long, and nice to be here.
Yeah, we are grateful you made time to be here. We are really grateful. I know how busy you can often be, considering your work schedule, considering the family that you have, and all that you made time to be here. And we at ỌDADEɛ Radio, we, ỌDADEɛ Health Matters, we are grateful. You are welcome once again.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, let's go back to your life back in PRESEC. Like I've already said, a lot of people have already heard the name, despite not being in the time period when you were in PRESEC. They'll still want to get to know some more. Which year did you complete PRESEC? What was your life in PRESEC like? How did you enjoy the experience?
Well, I always look back to my days in PRESEC with so much excitement. You know already the Christian gentleman spirit. And I think the training has been quite good. And I think all that I've achieved and what I've done so far, though there's still more to be done, has actually been because of all these principles that I took up whilst I was in PRESEC. So it was quite interesting, and I would say I was one of the good boys, so I didn't get into trouble much. So all in all, it was good. I was in PRESEC between 2001 and 2003 when we actually completed.
Okay.
I was in House 7, we were just talking about that off air. Quite an interesting one from first year all the way. Again, I always followed the rules, so I tended to I played it safe, and I think generally it was a nice experience. You know, once you follow rules, you tend to, have the favor of senior colleagues and also the teachers, So first year was actually quite interesting. I had a cousin who was in second year or third year, I think at that time. So he kind of made life easy for me as well. I was in the E class, so started from 1E all the way to 3E. I think in the final year I was the library prefect as well, something that was a bit unexpected. Maybe not surprising, but I mean that's where I ended up. And generally, I was in class with very brilliant guys, very good guys. Some I've kept contact with. Alex Akowa, who happened to be our senior prefect today. I'm actually with him in Kolebu when I meet him once in a while. People like Prince Nyama, who I actually, Faraday, who actually sat with in medical school. So all in all, it was a brilliant time. Not forgetting all our wonderful tutors or teachers who mentored us all throughout the period. Talk about a blessed memory, Mrs. Champon. May her soul rest in peace. People like Mr. Kote, Pola. It was really fun. Sometimes you look back to it, you were like, those times we didn't have problems really. We didn't really have problems. Now there's a lot that we have to shoulder family-wise, work responsibilities. But time in PRESEC, and if I had the chance, I'll definitely come back to PRESEC. And I actually influenced my younger brothers as well, because they both came to PRESEC after me. And I think my boys are also coming to PRESEC.
Amazing.
No two ways about that.
There's no two ways about that. His boys will be coming to PRESEC. I mean, it's legacy. And having gone through PRESEC and seen what is done for him, he wants his boys to come to PRESEC as well. You mentioned the likes of Dr. Kowa, who is currently an anesthesiologist at Kolebu Teaching Hospital. ỌDADEɛ, Dr. Prince Nyoma, a public health specialist, who is also the host of this show. Yeah, they've all been big brothers to me. I've worked with them at one point in time. Yeah, you mentioned you're not one of the bad boys. Do you mind telling us, Chukin? I want to know who were the bad boys in your time.
Oh no, I'm not gonna check that. They know themselves.
They know themselves.
I'm sure they are listening. They know themselves. Yes, they know themselves.
I take it that you're Muslim.
Yes, I'm a Muslim.
Okay, amazing.
From birth and fully trained, indoctrinated in the life of that. But then again, I mean, it's more like even during PSEC, we had that freedom as Muslims to actually associate. We had a Muslim association. We had a place allocated for us to actually go and pray. And sometimes we're exempted from, in fact, we're exempted from the Sunday church services to also hold our small meetings to discuss our faith. So there was really no compulsion in pushing us into Christian activities. And that I really respect so much from PSEC, and I would hope that this is carried forward to all other institutions. At least there should be a structure for people to be able to practice their religion, as long as they are not causing problems. So that's kudos to PSEC, and I would respect PSEC for that always.
Kudos to PSEC. There's no compulsion in religion. And despite being a Muslim, you could even see that the Presbyterian training did go through him, and he went through the training as well. They were playing some songs just off air, and I heard you singing to it. Some of the Presbyterian were like, wow, that's amazing. I know you to be a Muslim, but then you have not forgotten your Presbyterian training. And that's amazing. There should be no compulsion in faith. Give people the opportunity to do what they would want, whatever religion they would want to practice. And that regardless, whatever training that you want to train them in, they would still go through with it. He even went ahead to become the library prefect. That's amazing. And you can see that he totally enjoyed his training in PSEC, because he recounts all the moments, recounts his mates and even the teachers as well. And that is a great thing to have. Nostalgia is always a great feeling. Having spoken about your time in PSEC, I would want us to zoom into your family life. I want to get to know a bit about your beautiful wife, if you attended the Brig Girls, children whom soon be ÖDADEÄ as well, and all that.
Okay, so I'm happily married to one amazing lady.
It shows in your face.
Yes, I mean, she's been the backbone to all that ever since I met her. The ladies, they say the men are the heads of the family, but I keep telling her that that's not true. The females are the heads of family, because they decide what you do and all that, what you're eating and who you should talk to, what to do at any point. And she's been an amazing one. She's actually a nurse, currently doing her specialization as an ENT specialist in Kumasi. I have two lovely boys, 6 and 4 years old. Wumpini, the older one, and Suhimi, the younger ones. Amazing guys. And like I said, they are definitely coming to PSEC later. But generally, we have a beautiful family, and we're actually quite happy.
Thank God. I'm looking forward to also having children who would come to PSEC as well.
Definitely.
So Wumpini, watch out for Wumpini and Suhuyini. Inusa, right?
PSEC,
they would be coming to PSEC. Watch out for them in the not too distant future. They would probably be our umbrella boys, and they would take us to at the time I think we would be chasing after our 20th
probably
trophy.
25th. But the thing I've realized is, I mean, I feel at a point, and that's what I want to do. I think there shouldn't be any I don't expect them to be extraordinary in terms of their academic progress. I think that sometimes as parents we tend to demand a lot from because I remember there were times that when you come second in an exam and all that, your parents are like, no, you could do better. It's a push, but I think sometimes our parents do it so much. So I tend to give them that liberty. We want them to have the best education. But I think we should also tone down on wanting them to be there. If everybody's child is the best, then who is the last, you know? But I think they will definitely be in PSEC.
All right, so that is it about ÖDADEÄ. Dr. Abdul Jalil Inusa is senior physician specialist and nephrologist. For the non-medical people, nephrologist means that he's a kidney specialist. He's worked in Ghana. He's also a member of the West African College of Physicians. So he's worked in Ghana, worked in South Africa, where he actually had his subspecialty training at the University of Stellenbosch. Hospital. So he has a wealth of experience when it comes to kidney its pathologies, its diseases, and whatnot. So today, be ready, listen, take your notebook, and hear it all from ỌDADEƐ Dr. Abdul Jalil Inusa. Okay, so let's zoom into our topic for today. We are discussing kidney disease. I should not even be referring to it as an emerging epidemic. It is already an epidemic. Let's first and foremost get to know what the kidney is and what is its role in the human body, for which reason its pathology should be of concern to us.
So kidneys, very important organs, as you've mentioned. So I mean, in terms of anatomy and how they actually look, they are more like the size of a clenched fist.
Okay.
And everyone should actually have two kidneys, really born with two kidneys. But there are rare occasions where someone is born with one kidney, which somehow is compatible with life. But obviously, you cannot be born without kidneys, and it just shows the importance of a kidney. Without kidneys, you are not going to survive again. So basically, we have two kidneys, as I said, usually below the rib cage on either sides of the body.
Okay.
And those are very important organs, as we already mentioned. So the basic function of a kidney is to maintain the normal environment of your body. So generally it gets rid of all the waste substances that you would either produce during the normal metabolism of your body, or as you eat food, as you take in medications, as substances go through your body, they are metabolized and the waste substances are brought out through urine, which is made by the kidneys. So it's mostly an excretory organ to get rid of waste substance in the body. It also plays a crucial role in control of blood pressure. So you do realize that a lot of people, as they develop kidney diseases, then they do tend to have very high blood pressures as well. Helps in production of red blood cells. So again, people who have kidney disease may tend to have anemia. And it basically controls the fluid status and electrolyte status as you have. So again, you see people with kidney disease may come in with some swollen feet or swollen face or swollen abdomen and all that. So generally these are, but not to forget the fact that it also helps in some mineral metabolism, calcium, phosphate, vitamin D metabolism, which helps us to have strong bones and teeth. So when you have abnormalities in that, you tend to have a derangement in all these things, and people tend to get fractures and other bone diseases as well. So in some way, this is probably what we know the kidneys for and what they should be doing, such that anytime there's a disruption in this function, we tend to have symptoms and other signs as a result of a disruption in the function of the kidneys.
Yeah, that's quite a lot. That's quite a lot. I mean, the functions, initially anyone would have thought that all it does is produce urine and get rid of waste substances. But you've mentioned quite a number of other roles that it plays, very critical ones, helping the production of red blood cells that eventually gets into the blood, which is a major component of the blood. You've mentioned this role in water and electrolytes within our body. Mentioned this role, blood pressure control and all that. That is certainly a lot. And that makes sense why we cannot live without at least one, right? Okay. So then what is kidney disease?
So kidney disease, again, like we just said, when you don't have your kidneys functioning as they should function, then you say it's a kidney disease. But a distinction should really be made when you're talking about kidney disease. Broadly, we'll divide them into two. So you can have an acute kidney injury or kidney disease or a chronic kidney disease. So I'll give examples. Let's say you have some severe illness, severe malaria, or have some nausea, vomiting and diarrhea, you get dehydrated, and so you don't get enough blood flow to the kidneys. The kidneys can temporarily shut down and then the function goes down, and therefore you may have some of these symptoms and signs that we've mentioned. So that is an acute kidney disease, and most often than not, if you are able to address the cause of the acute kidney disease, you tend to have the kidney function recovering back to normal. In certain cases, the damage may be so severe that in the moment you may need to support them with dialysis until the kidneys recover. So that's one aspect of kidney disease. Then the second aspect is a chronic kidney disease, and by definition, if you have kidney disease persisting for more than 3 months, then we say that's a chronic kidney disease. So that being said, it's usually due to some factor or inciting agent that persists long enough, causing chronic damage to the kidney. Unfortunately, majority of causes in this category are not reversible. So then all you need to do is to prevent the kidney disease from progressing to the end stages. A few of chronic kidney disease cases are actually treatable or reversible. Say somebody has this syndrome of nephrotic syndrome.
Okay.
So you detect it, you put them on the appropriate therapy. Most of the time, we put them on steroids, and then they can recover. All the symptoms and signs that they present with may resolve. And such patients may be called treated kidney disease.
Okay.
But to a large extent, chronic kidney disease is not reversible, and it's just a disease of progression, which you must try to arrest so they don't progress to the end stage.
Okay. So you actually mentioned one term here, and for the benefit of our listeners and viewers, you mentioned nephrotic syndrome, dialysis. Could you break down these a bit for us?
Yes, so nephrotic syndrome, basically, like we said, the kidneys are supposed to get rid of waste substances through the urine. So as you can imagine, all our proteins, all our albumin, which is a form of protein, are very useful substances to us. So as the kidney is filtering waste substances, it takes back all these useful things that we need in our body. So if you have a problem, so let's regard the kidney as a sieve. Waste substances are coming out and the good things are being taken back into the body.
Okay.
So if you have a problem with the sieve, you may actually be losing a lot of useful things, including proteins or albumins. And once you lose those proteins or albumins, you tend to get swollen and other things that come with it. Your blood levels of albumin will go down, you become more swollen, your blood pressures may go up, your kidney function may get impaired, your lipids or other cholesterol factors may go up. So this whole syndrome is called the chronic nephrotic syndrome. And most often it's an inflammatory problem, such that when you put them on steroids, I'm not saying steroids for all causes, but they usually tend to recover the normal kidney function. So that is nephrotic syndrome. Again, dialysis is more like the kidneys, like we said, is supposed to filter things and get things out of the body. So if your kidneys fail, they are not able to get rid of these waste substances that we talked about, right? So things like urea, creatinine, and other toxic substances, which ideally should be excreted from the body, stay in the body. And that is why you get sick, you are vomiting, you are nauseous and vomiting, itching and swollen feet and all that. So dialysis is just a mechanism where we connect you to a machine. And that machine filters your blood, working like a kidney, so more like an artificial kidney, until a point where, in the case of acute kidney disease, your kidneys recover that function. Then you can stop dialysis. But in the case of chronic kidney disease, where it's gone to the end stage, unfortunately, you may need to be on dialysis indefinitely or transplant if that is available to you.
Okay, so dialysis is just like an artificial function that you put in place to take over the role of the kidneys where they have failed. Okay, and so acute kidney injury, just in summary, is usually short-lived, and in some cases, or in most cases, is often reversible. But chronic kidney disease in most cases is irreversible and would often need some form of support by way of either dialysis or a transplant. Okay, all right.
So I'll just also add that the fact that we say acute kidney disease or acute kidney injury is reversible doesn't mean that you should get an acute kidney. It also has its long-term thing. In very severe cases, that's also graded in stages. People actually get admitted to the ICU with all the cost and all that, and people die out of acute kidney injury. In the good situation where you actually recover, your kidneys may recover function, but it may not recover to the optimal level that it should have been. And once you already have an acute kidney injury, it's always a risk for getting chronic kidney disease in the future. So then again, we must try as much as possible to look at possible causes of acute kidney injury and avoid them. Some are definitely self-imposed, like people taking herbal medications and other medications which they shouldn't be taking. Of course, if you get malaria, that's preventable, but some people get severe malaria and their kidneys shut down as a result. So these are things that we need to consider. The fact that it's reversible doesn't necessarily mean that it's all good. It always has a sequelae, and then people can progress to chronic kidney disease.
The fact that acute kidney injury is reversible does not mean that you should throw all caution to the wind and be like, oh, it is reversible and therefore I'll be able to regain my function. Sometimes it can actually lead to chronic kidney disease, or even you may die as a result of acute kidney injury. So prevention is key, ensuring that you do not get any form of kidney disease whatsoever. We want to move on to our next question. We're spending this hot, beautiful afternoon in the studios of ỌDADEƐ Radio discussing kidney disease and what we can do to prevent it, what we can do to ensure that we have optimum health. How common is this condition in Ghana? What is the incidence? What is the prevalence in our sub-region?
Yeah, so I mean, generally it's estimated that worldwide over 850 million people are living with some form of kidney disease.
Wow.
In Africa, estimated prevalences are about 15%, mostly in the sub-Saharan Africa. And the most recent estimates we have in Ghana actually puts at 13.1%. So simply put, out of 100 Ghanaians that you sample, 13 of them would actually have some form of kidney disease. You may not realize it again because sometimes in the initial stages, it may not be symptomatic. You may not feel that you're sick, but if you were to test, you would realize that there's some form of kidney disease. So it's quite alarming considering 13% of the population. And it seems to be growing. You know, more people are diagnosed of kidney disease day in and day out, and sometimes it's quite scary.
Yeah.
Considering the fact that, like you mentioned in the beginning, in the advanced world, majority of the people who have kidney disease are in the early ages, 60s, 65s and all that. But from our estimates in Ghana and our study, we found out that majority of our people with chronic kidney disease actually lie in the reproductive ages. Wow. Very productive ages where they should be contributing to the economy of the country. So you look at people between 20 and then 50 being the most affected, and you can see that productivity is going to be affected. That being said, children are not spared from this phenomenon of kidney disease, and there is an increasing number of children as well coming in with chronic kidney disease.
Okay, so now that we know that what kidney disease is and the fact that out of every 100 people in Ghana that are sampled, about 13, and it's actually scary because 100 people should be able to fit into this building, and if you sampled 100 people out of 100, 13 are likely to have kidney disease. That is scary, considering the cost that comes to not just the individual but to society, to their family. It is certainly scary, and it's important that we put in measures to prevent this. Let's find out what the causes are. Are there any identifiable risk factors or causes for this condition, especially in Ghana? What are the commonest causes and what are the commonest risk factors that are prevalent in Ghana?
Yeah, so worldwide, really, diabetes and hypertension, it's the commonest. They account for over 70% of the cases. I think the situation is not very different in Ghana. From studies that we've done, especially among people with end-stage kidney disease who are on dialysis, it's a similar pattern. Hypertension, diabetes, there are some genetic causes as well, but generally those are the major things: hypertension, diabetes. Lots of risk factors really. Of course, if you are hypertensive, especially if it's not well controlled, you are diabetic, is not well controlled, you have a family history of that, aging as it's a risk factor on its own, and then using some of these medications that we did mention, things like herbal preparations that we don't even know the source, what is it contained in that. Sometimes they can cause an acute kidney injury, but with prolonged use, some can result in chronic kidney disease. There are other people who have some genetic predisposition, and that's a subject of investigation. It's a big area that we are investigating. We're actually looking at blacks being at a higher risk of chronic kidney disease. Why are blacks being at higher risk? So we identified some genetic transformations or alleles that actually contribute to that. And we found out that if you have two of such abnormal genes, it actually predisposes you. And if you look at the sampling that we found so far, about 13-14% of our population actually have those two alleles, and so there's a higher risk, and therefore there's usually going to be a second hit, and that tips you into kidney disease. People born preterm also at a higher risk. Obese patients are at high risk. Smoking, cigarette smoking also puts people at a high risk. So there's a whole lot of conglomerate factors that actually can predispose a person, apart from the major big hitters, diabetes and hypertension. So many other things predisposing to kidney disease in our environment.
Yeah, from what you are just saying, it looks like general unhealthy living is somehow a risk factor for this, because obesity would definitely usually come from a lack of physical activity, eating of unhealthy food substances, smoking, taking excessive amounts of alcohol. So it looks like the very risk factors that would often predispose us to hypertension, that would often predispose us to diabetes, are also these very risk factors that would predispose us to kidney disease. Okay, we want to move on to get to know. Now we know what the risk factors are, what the causes are. How can one be able to identify that they have kidney disease, especially at the very early stages, so that they'll be able to seek early medical care? What are the typical symptoms? What are the typical signs of kidney disease?
Okay. So, thing is, like you said, usually in the early stages of a chronic kidney, it may be very silent, and a patient or person may be very fit and so doesn't even know that he has that. So that being said, when you're talking of chronic kidney disease, you actually put them in stages, all the way from stage 1 to stage 5. It's based on certain factors, and most commonly we use something called a GFR, which is based on some laboratory measures we'll be talking about. And once the GFR goes less than 15, then that's when we say you are at stage 5 or end stage. And at that stage, you may need some form of renal replacement therapy in the form of dialysis or transplantation. So as you can imagine, from the early stages, stage 1, stage 2, you may actually be very fine. And so if you've not tested, you may not know. So once it then advances stage 3, stage 4, then it manifests with all the things we mentioned earlier on. If you are not able to pass urine and all that, you may get swollen. You are retaining waste substances which you really should have gotten rid of. You now feel very sick, some weight loss, not being able to eat adequately, having some nausea and vomiting, itching here and there, maybe some joint pain, fatigue. And again, these things usually will be quite non-specific, because somebody may feel tired or lack of energy, probably because he has malaria. So you just feel, oh, I have malaria, goes to take anti-malaria. Meanwhile, there's a graver disease in the background. So early on, usually asymptomatic, and once symptoms even start, they are very, very vague until the advanced stages, when they then present with a uremic syndrome, and then you would test and say that this person has chronic disease. And unfortunately, this shouldn't be the case. Like you mentioned earlier, we should be identifying people in the early stages, people at a high risk, so that we can institute measures to prevent their progression to the end stage where they will need dialysis and transplantation.
So the symptoms and signs, especially in early disease, they may even be asymptomatic.
Yes.
Wow.
And that's the scary part of it, you know. People feel they are fine. Somebody says, oh, he's been fine, he comes to the hospital, and they test him and they say he has kidney failure. And you've actually seen in practice, I see people who hitherto were fine, right? They just come in and you do the test, and then you realize that because it's a slowly progressive disease, in most cases, people tend to adapt, like you're getting tired, so you may not be doing the activities that you used to do, and so you feel fine. By the time you come in and they test you, like, your kidneys are filled, and you wonder, but I'm fine. But ideally, going in, you realize that you're not fine. So that is why it's very silent in the initial period, and so we need to be very mindful of that.
Just like his major risk factors, or should I say the major causes of kidney disease globally and also in Ghana, very silent: hypertension. You are moving about, no symptoms whatsoever, no signs whatsoever, and then suddenly tragedy strikes. Okay, so like you heard from ỌDADEɛ Dr. Abdul Jalil, a kidney specialist, nephrologist, senior physician specialist with the renal unit of the Department of Internal Medicine and Therapeutics of the Kolebu Teaching Hospital. Kidney disease can often present with no symptoms whatsoever until it is rather late. So it is very important, it's very imperative that you go for your regular health checkups, live a healthy life, so that we can often pick up some of these risk factors early and put in measures to prevent one from getting kidney disease. If you're just tuning in, this is ỌDADEƐ Health Matters live here in the studio of ỌDADEƐ Radio. And of course, like I said, we are live on YouTube at ỌDADEƐ Radio. On Facebook, we are live at ỌDADEƐ Radio Ghana or at ỌDADEƐ Radio. You can communicate with us on our various social media handles: on Facebook at ỌDADEƐ Radio, on Instagram at ỌDADEƐ Radio, on YouTube at ỌDADEƐ Radio, and of course on Twitter at ỌDADEƐ Radio. This show is brought to you by kind courtesy of the ỌDADEƐ Medical Guild, and of course ỌDADEƐ 81, who set up ỌDADEƐ Radio and have made it possible for us to continue to bring you this very important, illuminating health talk show. We want to continue, and we'll be going on a break shortly to acknowledge our sponsors. But before we go, we've already spoken about what kidney disease is, what the risk factors are, the various kinds, whether acute, chronic, and what can be done about it. We've spoken about the symptoms and signs. I want to know, are there any complications that can often arise from kidney disease?
So definitely, I mean, like we already mentioned, in terms of the acute kidney disease, especially if it's an advanced stage, because acute kidney disease is also stage 1, stage 2, stage, depending on certain parameters. The more advanced it is, the higher your likelihood of dying or going to ICU care and all that. And also remember, we did say that even recovery from acute kidney disease doesn't necessarily guarantee you optimal kidney health. There's always going to be a residual deficit, and so therefore a risk for chronic kidney disease in the future. And when it comes to chronic kidney disease, again, the complications will usually be because of these abnormalities in function. So if your blood pressures are going very high, you may get a stroke, you may get a heart attack or an MI, So these are cardiac, and most of the time, people actually with chronic kidney disease tend to die of cardiovascular diseases like a heart attack or a stroke, rather than even going all the way to end stage, So mortality definitely is high up there. And then you can also imagine some of the other things we said. Quality of life is poor, you're feeling very sick, you cannot work, you cannot live a productive life. So quality of life is down, especially if you're not able to have a renal replacement therapy in the latter stages. Bone health, anemia, which sometimes will require multiple transfusions or other medications that would cost-wise and all. So those are all complications. But I think all in all, mortality is usually going to be the worst thing, and most people would actually die of cardiovascular disease when they have chronic kidney, than even going all the way to the end stage of the kidney disease.
Yeah, so having kidney disease does not just end there. It's not like having probably malaria and then ends there. You have kidney disease, then you have a candidate, or you're at risk for developing heart attacks, you're at risk for developing strokes, and you have hypertension alongside. And the risk factors, or the complications, I should say, are not just limited to the health aspect, but we're also talking about socio-economic as well. Wow. Okay, so if you are just tuning in, this is ỌDADEƐ Health Matters. You've been listening to us via our ỌDADEƐ radio app at Zeno FM radio app. That is Zeno FM /ỌDADEƐ radio, or you probably downloaded it from our ỌDADEƐ radio app on the Google Play Store or the App Store, or you're probably listening to us via our live Facebook stream or YouTube. We want to go on a quick commercial break to acknowledge our sponsors. When we return, there's more that will be coming from our guest ỌDADEƐ, Dr. Abdul Jalil Inusa. Don't go anywhere. We would be right back.
ỌDADEƐ Radio. Like us on Facebook at ỌDADEƐ Radio. Follow us on Instagram and Twitter at ỌDADEƐ Radio. You can WhatsApp or call us on 0200 092925.
But all this printing and branding is at hand.
Ya bro nie jawa bro for semno. Mami adu twumwe nie me chiro fake. Me call no original. E ba ne printing some dia souvenirs and more. Corporate printing. To say crystal plaques, flyers, call cards, mufflers, ties, pen drives, souvenirs and more. Wristbands, dog tags, t-shirts, lapel pins, exercise boots, key holders, mugs, invitation cards, handkerchiefs, souvenirs and more. Calendars, scarf, tight cards, banners, name tagging, souvenirs and more. Water shock, posters, rosette, brochure from Wadata for you. So 02333 29333 and I say 0575 329 333. Shusha mwachira kwa wo Accra New Town, La Paz Station wo. And I say Abel Fontaine time www.souvenirsandmall.com.
Agriculture plays a crucial role to our country's development, with a huge contribution to Ghana's GDP, whilst providing for our food needs at the same time.
They should know that agric is the backbone of every country. Honestly, you began by giving us the percentages, but it used to be 70% that agric contributes to the economy. It's because of certain lapses that has made a figure decline.
I don't know why they see farming as a bad occupation, because in other developed countries, they take agric very seriously and they make a lot of money out of farming. They use a lot of modern technology to improve their yield, but over here we only see it as the use of certain man-made or small implements such as cutlass and hoe, which don't really do much. If you want to go into mass production, which will bring you a lot of money, you use a lot of modern technology that will help improve the yield.
Time to put the spotlight on agriculture value chain in Ghana on Agric Panorama on ỌDADEƐ Radio. Agric Panorama is a radio program that is aimed at creating a unique platform for all all farmers, traders, processors, transporters, wholesalers, and all other actors within the agric value chain, agric experts, policymakers, students in agriculture, and other stakeholders as they participate in a panel discussion to unravel all that matters to improve agriculture and agribusiness sector, which is the backbone of Ghana's economy.
It's beneficial to the country in the sense that the non-companies in this country, the products these companies bring out are from agric, or the raw products are from agric, which has been processed into finished goods.
With agric, as I was coming, I wanted to do biology, but my grandfather was the person who told me that, why don't you try agriculture? Because I'm a farmer, and look at where I am. So you can also try agriculture, and then you can see how far you go.
Agric Panorama will be broadcast live from the studios of ỌDADEƐ Radio online every Saturday from 10 a.m. to 12 noon. You can listen and contribute to this program via the Zeno FM radio app or ỌDADEƐ Radio app from the Google Play Store or App Store. Also watch it live on YouTube or Facebook at ỌDADEƐ Radio or ỌDADEƐ Radio Ghana. ỌDADEƐ Radio, shine the light.
Working on a weekend like usual.
Hi, my name is Jimmy Markin. Please join me and my team as we present to you the Students' Lounge on ỌDADEƐ Radio this and every Saturday from 5 p.m. to 6 p.m. for fun-filled moments, bringing to you the students' view on captivating topics, student celebrity interviews, and many more. Remember, the Students' Lounge is on ỌDADEƐ Radio this and every Saturday from 5 p.m. to 6 p.m. Do tune in.
No, you see my text, baby, please say something. Wine by the glass, your man a cheapskate, huh?
What does the Bible say? And what sort of light does it throw on any life-related issue? John chapter 1 verse 5 states, "And the light shineth in darkness, and darkness comprehended it not." Light for Life is a Christian panel discussion program on all life-related issues and how the Bible helps us in its day-to-day application. Beloved, my name is Reverend Gordon Kwashi, and I invite you to join me and my guests on the Light for Life program on ỌDADEƐ Radio online this and every Sunday from 6:30 p.m. to 8 p.m. I trust that as we engage in this Light for Life program, we'll all be able to say to our God, "In thy light we shall see light." God richly bless you as you tune in.
I don't know what I would do without him. Whom shall I fear?
ỌDADEƐ Radio. Like us on Facebook at ỌDADEƐ Radio. Follow us on Instagram and Twitter at ỌDADEƐ Radio. You can WhatsApp or call us on 0200 092925.
And I know that it is love, and this place is much brighter than tomorrow.
In discussing kidney disease as an epidemic, one that has taken the world and of course Ghana by storm, and one that we need to put in measures to control its effects on the population. And with me here in the studio is our very own, the legend himself, ỌDADEƐ, Dr. Abdul Jalil Inusa, a senior physician specialist and nephrologist, that is a kidney specialist with the renal unit of the Internal Medicine and Therapeutics Department of the Korle Bu Teaching Hospital. He is also a fellow of the International Society of Nephrology and a member of the West African College of Physicians. He's also a regular reviewer of the African Journal of Nephrology. So yes, we have the right person in the studios enlightening and educating us about kidney disease and kidney health. We've spoken about what the kidneys are, what their role in the body is. We've gone ahead to talk about what kidney disease is, the various types. We've spoken about some of the symptoms and the signs, the risk factors. We now want to go ahead, having known what the risk factors are, what the causes are. I want to find out from you how an individual who is listening to us now can reduce their risk of developing kidney disease.
Okay, so I think it follows from all the discussions. I mean, the key here is healthy living, healthy lifestyle, regular exercises, optimal weight, so weight losses to optimal BMIs, avoid smoking, avoid taking herbal medications, avoid taking herbal medications, excessive alcohol, we should stop excessive alcohol. And of course, for people who already have those risks that we mentioned, diabetes and hypertension, they must make sure that together with their physicians, they are getting these things controlled up to target. The blood pressure should be well controlled, the blood sugar should be well controlled. Additionally, there are things I already mentioned, these indiscriminate use of herbal medications. And unfortunately for our elder folks, because they have low back pains and knee pains, so-called arthritis, they tend to abuse a lot of NSAIDs, diclofenacs and brufen. And most of our elder folks tend to have a lot of these medications. Chronic long-term use of these things also predispose people to chronic kidney disease. So generally, as we already mentioned, we should live healthy lifestyle. Make sure we are well hydrated and don't expose ourselves to some of these factors that can cause us to get kidney disease.
On the point about good hydration, you just mentioned the fact that we should be well hydrated. I've had a few patients that have come in, all they said was that they had a bout of diarrhea or they had malaria or something of the sort, and these are actually pretty common things. What do you have to say about that? Diarrhea leading to kidney disease, is it possible? How common is it? What should one do?
Yes, so definitely very common, and that's why as part of our management of people who come with diarrhea and other dehydrative states, our priority should be to rehydrate them. So generally, when you talk about that would usually manifest as an acute kidney injury. So when you're talking about an acute kidney injury, there are several causes. We didn't really touch on all of them, but there's a pre-renal, so a problem that happened before the kidneys, or something directly affecting the kidney, like you take some herbs that cause direct damage to the kidney. Or in certain cases, particularly in our older folks, older males, they have prostate disease, and so it's blocking the tract of urine out of the kidneys. So they have a post-renal problem. So the dehydration, diarrhea, vomiting comes in from the pre-renal. So obviously the waters that you are losing is part of your blood volume, and you must have adequate flow of blood to the kidneys. So if you are not having adequate flow of blood to the kidneys, generally your kidneys take about 20 to 25% of per minute of the blood your heart is pumping out. So if you have low blood volumes, you tend to get less flow to the kidney, and the kidneys can shut down for that reason. So diarrhea, vomiting, very critical causes, especially if it's protracted and we don't replace the fluid ASAP. You tend to have prolonged damage, which can result in acute kidney injury as well. Similarly, malaria. People may vomit a lot, and malaria may also cause breakdown of your red blood cells, releasing certain substances, right? And these substances, the hemoglobin coming from the red blood cells, can be directly toxic to the kidneys and cause a shutdown. So in that case, we try to hydrate them adequately to wash out all these pigments and rehydrate, increase the blood flow to the kidneys so they regenerate. Fortunately, amongst us, we who have lived in Ghana all our lives tend to have immunity. So very rarely would you find a Ghanaian born and bred here having that degree of severe malaria causing kidney shutdown. But we do get them, especially amongst foreigners. I've seen quite a number of foreign nationals who come in, get severe malaria, and their kidneys totally shut down. And majority of these would actually have required dialysis for recovery. So these are some of the things that can precipitate kidney injury amongst our patients.
Quite a number of our listener folk are actually people in their middle age, elderly as well. You spoke about post-renal and the fact that the prostate can be enlarged. I want you to hammer on that a bit more, so that those ỌDADEƐs or the individuals with prostate enlargement, you can actually take some tidbits from here.
Yeah, so like we said, because the kidneys actually produce urine, and urine comes out through the ureters, which we have two, into the bladder and out through the urethra. So if you have an enlarged prostate blocking the bladder outlet, you are not able to pee freely, and so the urine is retained within the tract. And once the urine is more like a plumbing work, if there's a blockage along the line, the back pressure goes all the way back to affect the kidneys. So prolonged effects of that can cause damage and scarring to the kidney. And we have quite a number of those would be called obstructive uropathy. And most of the time, it's an emergency process, and we must get the urologist as soon as possible to relieve the obstruction so the kidneys can recover. Because if we leave them long enough, it causes permanent damage to the kidney. And of course, we mentioned the males, but females are not spared from that as well. if you have a gynecologic problem like a cervical cancer which has spread within the pelvis, sometimes it can also block the ureters, and so the urine doesn't flow, the pressures mount in the ureters all the way back to the kidneys, causing excessive pressure on the kidneys, and you can actually have kidney damage unless that pressure is relieved. So those cases would usually be acute, but if you let them stand on for long, then there may be permanent damage which really would not be reversible. So in that case, we really need the intervention of a urologist to help relieve those pressures so at least the kidneys can recover.
This to all the ОДАДЕės out there, this is a message to you. If you've been having these symptoms of increased frequency or stranguria or all the other ones, nocturia, waking up at night, urinate a lot, or having to urinate often, then in your middle age you'll be informed that you have benign prostatic hyperplasia or you have prostate disease. Ensure that you go to the hospital, have it checked out, and make sure that you receive treatment for it so that you do not end up with kidney disease like ΟDΑDEƐ Dr. Abdul Jalil Imusa just informed us about. Now there are people who are listening to us who may actually have kidney disease at various stages, either stage 1, stage 2, stage 3, stage 4, stage 5, whatever one it may be. For those who are not aware, who did not know about this, they will probably now go and then check. There are others who are aware and know their state. What are some of the lifestyle measures that you would recommend to help reduce their risk of developing these complications and be able to live much healthier lives?
Okay, so the lifestyle measures will basically apply to both populations as you described. It's the same factors. Excessive weight gain, so obesity is a risk factor, cigarette smoking, excessive alcohol intake, sedentary lifestyle, poorly controlled hypertension, poorly controlled diabetics. So we need to make sure that we are living healthy, cutting down our salt intake, and that helps with blood pressure control, eating healthy, making sure our blood sugars are controlled, exercising regularly, and there are recommended exercises that we can do to keep fit. Cut down smoking cessation, cut down your alcohol intake, and generally we are good to go. But generally what is also happening is that for people who are at this risk of kidney disease, it just doesn't say I'm at risk of kidney disease, so I'm going to cut down on my salt intake, exercise, lose weight and all that. You should have that interaction with your physician such that you are tested and then tested once and then periodically. Because testing now and everything is fine doesn't mean you cannot develop that. So there should be a schedule based on other risk factors every 3 months, every 6 months, such that you are tested to determine whether you are developing it or not. And if you are developing it, there are ways that we, in addition to the lifestyle intervention, there are other medications that have been approved in certain cases to help slow down the progress. Because at the end of the day, we are trying to prevent it from going all the way to the end stage or stage 5, where you may actually need dialysis. So that's basically what we are supposed to be doing. So we should be screening, and in fact, everybody should have kidney screened. We would say that because of cost and public health implications, we all cannot go screening because of the cost. But generally, blacks, as I already mentioned, are at high risk of kidney disease. So all high-risk patients should actually go and have a periodic kidney test, and that would involve checking your urine for proteins. And I think I mentioned already how the presence of protein in your urine may suggest that you have kidney disease. Additionally, we do some blood tests where we measure your serum creatinine and calculate the GFR. And based on the GFR, we can actually put you in a stage, and then that actually determines what interventions we can give at any stage. Again, we should remember that it is a dual-pronged screening. You don't only go check creatinine and say, oh, I've done the creatinine, the GFR is 90 or above 90, so the person doesn't have kidney disease. Again, that is wrong and erroneous. And so we as healthcare professionals should desist from it. Initially, they may just present with proteins in the urine and not necessarily the creatinine going up. By the time your creatinine is going up for your GFR to go down, you should have lost a significant amount of your kidney function. So waiting to see the creatinine go up is actually a late detection. Usually proteins start going up before you have the creatinine going up. Additionally, people should be screened for diabetes. So don't say, oh, I screened for diabetes a year ago, so I think I don't have diabetes. There's always a first time for you to develop diabetes. So it should be periodic, especially if you have family history of that. We should all be checking our blood pressures periodically. So I think in terms of screening, that is what we should be doing. And it should be an interaction between the clinician and the patient. And again, we are all at high risk. People with chronic diseases like HIV, Hep B, Hep C are high risk people. HIV people can actually get CKD. So people with HIV should also be having periodic checks, and that actually determines what kind of medications we give them. People with hepatitis B also are at a risk of having chronic kidney disease. People with hepatitis C, people with TB, people with syphilis, some of these chronic diseases. So such people should actually take measures to be screening themselves from time to time. There are other people with things like systemic lupus erythematosus or other connective tissue disease. All these people are at high risk, and therefore they must have periodic screening in conjunction with their physicians.
So these are rheumatological conditions that you're talking about. Okay, so you heard from ỌDADEɛ Dr. Abdul Jalil Inusa. How do you reduce your risk of developing kidney disease? 1, eat healthy. 2, exercise frequently. 3, stop smoking. That is a no altogether. Reduce the amount of alcohol that you take. If you can't, stop altogether, right? Yeah. And apart from that, regular screening is key. Checking your blood pressures regularly, checking your blood sugars regularly. And for those who are at risk, and it's already mentioned that blacks were at high risk. Now it is no longer a preserve of just the elderly. He was mentioning the fact that 19-year-olds, 32-year-olds are some of the people that he just treated over the past week. So it's important that you go for screening regularly. You go and visit a health physician or a health facility, at least to have your blood pressure checked, at least to have your blood sugar checked, and occasionally have your kidney functions also tested as well. And he's been hammering on herbal medications ever since he sat here. This is coming from the kidney specialist, not coming from me, not coming from any street vendor. The herbal medications. You don't know where they are coming from. The regulation is not as good as it needs to be. And unfortunately, we've actually lost lives due to the inordinate consumption of these herbal medications. So it is very important, it's imperative that you stop taking the herbal medication, the indiscriminate consumption of herbal medication. As we've said a couple of times over here, they are the right places where you can often go for some of these herbal medications, such as the Center for Plant Medicine, Mampong. That's the place where we often recommend, because we liaise with them and we know that they go through the scientific process, they go through the scientific method in bringing out their medications. So these are some of the practical measures that Dr. Abdul Jalil Inusa has stated and has mentioned for us to take in order to reduce our risk of developing kidney disease. Having known what kidney disease is, the symptoms and signs, what the causes, what the risk factors are, and how we can reduce the risk for individuals who already have this disease at the various stages. Is there hope for them? Can kidney disease be cured? And what are the various treatment options that are available for these people, especially in Ghana?
Yes, so in terms of cure, we mentioned earlier, if you have chronic kidney disease because of a treatable condition, most times you are able to cure them, right? But it's more like an exception rather than the norm. For people with hypertension, diabetes, for you to get kidney disease from diabetes, probably 15 to 20 years. So these are things that to a large extent are not reversible. So once these are detected, then it's between you and your physician, most appropriately nephrologist, to then determine the appropriate measures, apart from the lifestyle interventions that we've measured, appropriate measures and medications that can be instituted to prevent the progression or slow down the progression. Invariably, kidney disease is a progressive disease, like we said, goes all the way from stage 1 all the way to stage 5, but you can slow down the progression. And mind you, we should bear in our mind that just like you buy a car and it has an engine, with time the engine wears, there's a wear and tear. So for all of us from age of 40, our kidney function starts dropping, and it's estimated that your GFR, as we mentioned earlier, will drop by 1 per year. So it's expected from age of 40, so there's going to be a progression anyway, whether you have kidney disease or not. But that rate of progression doesn't usually bring your GFR less than 60. If you have other risks like diabetes and all that, then you can actually have it even going faster. Some people can drop by more than 5 a year, and that's rapid. So if you have 60 and you're dropping by 5, you can imagine how long it takes you to get to end stage. So then there are interventions, there are established protocols, there are medications that have gone through the scientific process, and if you actually qualify, your nephrologist can put you on that to help slow down the progression of kidney disease. Of course, in addition to the lifestyle modifications and also controlling the risk factor. If you have HIV, it should be well treated. Hep B should be well treated. Hypertension should be controlled. Diabetes should be controlled. And when this happens, most often than not, people can actually live very long lives and may not actually develop end stage even if they have chronic kidney disease. But unfortunately, people with chronic kidney disease are also at risk of an acute kidney disease because the kidneys already have an underlying problem. So the least insult, then there's a downward trend in the function. And unfortunately for most of them, once there's that acute disease, the kidneys usually doesn't recover back to where it is. So as much as possible, we must live healthy lifestyle, avoid these nephrotoxins, excessive use of NSAIDs like diclofenac, and generally making sure that we are doing the right things to keep ourselves safe.
Just mention nephrotoxins. I want you to mention some of the nephrotoxins, which are the common things that are toxic to the kidneys, so our listeners can have them at the back of their mind and as much as possible avoid these.
Okay. So nephrotoxins could actually be things generated from our body or things that you put into your body for some reason. We've mentioned herbal indiscriminate use of herbs and other medications that are directly toxic. We already mentioned things like NSAIDs, diclofenac, especially if you already have underlying kidney disease or you are dehydrated. So those are things. So in Cape Town, for instance, where I train, you hardly see any NSAIDs. It's paracetamol or Panadol for everyone. For those that have more severe pain, then they may add in an opioid. But here you realize that over the counter everybody is going for. You ask anybody who comes to kidney, do you take the like, oh, is that drug with muscles drawn on it? So those are nephrotoxins. Additionally, we may have things generated. We did mention if you have severe malaria, you can actually break down your red cells and it then releases certain substances, including hemoglobin, that can cause direct damage. There are things also released in the body like uric acid, which could be from the diet or also from metabolism, which can also cause direct damage to the kidney. So we can have endogenous and exogenous. And exogenous are basically what we are taking in, be it drugs that are, even for us as physicians, prescribing certain medications may actually be toxic. One common medication that is used particularly in ICU and all that, people with infections, and we say gram-negative sepsis, is gentamicin. It's an old drug and it's quite effective for gram-negatives, but it's actually quite toxic, especially if the person already has an underlying kidney disease or is dehydrated, as we mentioned. That can actually cause that. So you should always weigh the risk and benefit of using those. So it's not entirely limited to herbs, but also medication. And you do realize that based on the kidney function, some of the medications that would actually give normally at the normal dose to people, we can actually reduce the dose, because at that level of kidney function, we cannot give you a full dose of these medications. So all these things should be taken into consideration when we as physicians are also prescribing medications for our patients.
Okay, so you heard it from Dr. Jalil Inusa, ỌDADEƐ, Dr. Abdul Jalil Inusa. It's not just the herbal medication that we're talking about, but so that it does not seem like we are singling them out, but then medications that are even prescribed in the hospital, it is always important that a doctor prescribe those medications to you. And that is why I would often advise that don't just go buying over-the-counter medications as and when you want and take them as and when you want. It is very important that when you have a chronic condition or you have an illness whatsoever, you make sure that you see a physician, you see a doctor who would assess you completely, assess you holistically, and be able to prescribe the right medications for you. Sadly, we are getting close to the end of our discussion. It's been an enlightening afternoon with you. We already have some messages and some thoughts and comments coming from our listeners and our viewers. I want to ask you the last question before, this is actually the penultimate question before we go on to the questions from our listeners and viewers. So we've discussed all this, but I think that there's a role that each and every member of society has to play. And I want to find out what role medical professionals, I think you've already touched on some of that, what role individuals within the society, what role civil society organizations, and particularly what role the government has to play so that we can reduce the burden of kidney disease, not just in Ghana, but in Africa and on the global stage, and also ensure that kidney health is accessible to all?
So I think when you look at that, awareness creation, it's really key. And that is why every year, the second Thursday of March, we have a World Kidney Day celebration, which is actually tomorrow, the 9th of March.
Okay.
This year, as we speak, we are holding the event in Takoradi. Every year we try to go to every different towns across the country to get the people involved. This year we are in Takoradi. The team is doing a float. This morning, it was in the morning, together with medical screening, as we said. Okay. Very important. And tomorrow there will be a public lecture at the Calvary Charismatic Church Auditorium. And then we'll be inviting
also in Takoradi?
Also in Takoradi. To get people involved and educate them. So that education and civil society, the government, the clinicians, the health system should actually take active role in that. Education of patients. Once they understand what they can do and what they should be doing, it actually helps in prevention of these diseases. Additionally, screening is not a free process. I did mention let's screen urine for proteins, let's screen creatinine. There's quite a number of people who simply cannot afford that. So is there a way that the government can institute this and incorporate this in the National Health Insurance so that we can freely screen people and detect such people? I understand that in the long run, when people get to a stage where they need dialysis or which is very costly, the government may not be able to afford. Unfortunately, that's where majority of our people are going. So our emphasis should really be on prevention. And for those who are diagnosed, we should put in measures so that they can have access to quality care, access to nephrologists, access to nephrology nurses, which is lacking currently. So that should be identified as a priority area, and there should be sponsorships and scholarships for people to train. Very few nephrologists as we talk in the country. Very few trained nephrology nurses as well. Primary care physicians should be empowered to understand what we're discussing, because quite a number of them probably are not up to date with what is going on. And it's understandable because the management of chronic kidney disease is complex. They should have access, they should have their education, and they should have access to nephrologists to be able to discuss these cases with nephrologists. And if possible, for those who unfortunately get to end-stage kidney disease, is the government able to put in measures such that they can provide dialysis care for patients? I've had interactions with other nephrologists from Sudan, South Africa, Libya, and the government is actually taking care of their dialysis. But here you need to pay out of pocket. And averagely, a session of dialysis will cost about 400 cedis. So if you're going to have 3 sessions in a week, just imagine, not even factoring in all the medications and all the time wasted. And transplantation is an option. Fortunately, we are revamping our transplant process. Our last transplantation was in 2019, and hopefully this year we'll have a few more kidney transplantations available. So that can also be boosted. There should be sponsorship packages so that we can actually carry on these things, because it's not a cheap venture. So everybody really has a role to play. But I think that education is key, and then we should be directing our efforts towards educating the population. Individuals and the primary care physicians and doctors who are taking care of such individuals. And the government definitely has a big role to play in that regard.
Education is key, and the government definitely has a major role to play in this regard, that we are all pushing towards. This very noble cause that we are pushing towards, ensuring that kidney disease is reduced to the barest minimum. And yes, if you are in Takoradi, ỌDADEƐ, Dr. Abdul Jalil Inusa just mentioned that they are having the celebration, the public health education in Takoradi. That is where we have all the celebrations. I mean, Easter, Christmas. So come out there to all my people in Takoradi. You need to come out and support them, come out, play the music, and help them educate not just the people of Takoradi, but the whole Ghana on kidney disease and the importance of ensuring that your kidneys are always healthy. Because come to think of it, 400 cedis per dialysis session. And you're going to have at least 3 of these in a week, if I'm not mistaken. So that's about 1,200 cedis in a week. What is the minimum wage in Ghana? Even for the middle class or even for the upper class, would you be able to afford 1,200 cedis a week for the rest of your life? And even after the transplant, are there any medications? Are there anything that are supposed to do?
If you're going to get a transplant, definitely a healthy person is going to donate one of his kidneys to you. So it's a foreign object, and generally our bodies are trained such that if there's a foreign object, you reject it. So you need to be on certain medications to suppress your immune system such that it doesn't reject these organs. And there are quite a number of such medications, but obviously they are not cheap, and those are also for the life of the transplant. As long as you have it functioning, you need to be on these medications as well.
And suppressing your immune system will also come with its own issues.
Yeah, so it's a fine balance, you know. Wow. If you over suppress it, then you're going to be getting infections and all that. So it's generally a fine balance. But putting everything together, the ideal renal replacement therapy is actually the kidney transplant. Because just imagine having 3 sessions of dialysis a week. 4 hours every time you come in. That's productive hours that you're spending in hospital 3 times a week. But with your transplant, you don't need to come in a hospital. Just take your pills, and then you are good to go. And most people can actually have a good quality of life, unless they tell you I'm a kidney transplant patient. You would not know. And we have quite a number of celebrities and big people in the society who are living normally that you will not know. But the cost is usually the issue. I mean, when I discuss with patients whether they want to have transplant or not, the first thing they say is the cost. But putting everything together, the transplantation cost is a one-time cost. But if you look at it generally, it tends to be cheaper in the overall estimation, because doing 1,200 with all these other medications a week is definitely going to be worth more than just paying one time for a kidney transplant.
Certainly. And thankfully, ỌDADEƐ Dr. Abdul Jalil Yunusa has already mentioned that they are able to carry out renal transplants in Ghana. Their last one was in 2019. They would be having some, I think, in the course of the year, and you need not travel out of the country. Of course, kudos to you and the entire team. God bless you so much for all that you are doing. God bless you so much. So these are questions and comments from our viewers and our listeners. So I want to take them. This one is coming from a regular listener who often joins us via Facebook. He says, great job there, Dr. Abdul Jalil Yunusa. I've been enlightened a lot on kidney disease and what it means to have healthy kidneys today. My question is it true there has been an upsurge in kidney disease and kidney disease related deaths in mining communities in Ghana? And if yes, what is accounting for this?
Yes, so you know, we already mentioned there's an upsurge generally in kidney disease in Ghana. And what is scary is that very young people 20s, 30s, are coming with kidney disease. And before then, they don't have any of these traditional risk factors we are mentioning. So we really don't know what's happening. Is this some medications? Is it something in our water or something in our food? But then again, worldwide it's been documented for people who live in mining communities or agricultural communities, they tend to be at higher risk. We don't have enough data now to really tell that, but obviously people in mining community, especially the so-called galamsey artisanal mining, the kind of chemicals they use, heavy metals like mercury, cyanide, they are also known to be toxic to their kidneys. Additionally, during the whole process of that blasting all the silica and healing that, those are inflammatory processes that inflammatory particles that can cause kidney damage as well. So you realize they also go into the pits with all the heat, the dehydration. They may not have access to water, so they are very dry, and it's causing more acute kidney injuries as well. And again, it ends up that they come out and then they have body aches all over, and they go in taking these same NSAIDs and all. So it's basically a multifactorial. Similarly in the agricultural community, use of chemicals in farming, polluting our waters and all that, and that is exposing us to certain harmful chemicals. That is also increasing our risk. So it's not quite clear how this is happening, but the fact that we are getting younger people with none of these traditional risk factors coming in with kidney disease is actually quite scary. And that is one of the things we are actually looking at to see what is driving this.
Okay, so you heard it from the kidney specialist himself. He said that yes, it's a multifactorial issue, quite a number of things, and he's listed them. The fact that the heavy metals that are being used in the mining, the fact that they would often have to go underground with all these inflammatory particles that are being released, the fact that they come out, they're exhausted and they're tired, and they have to go back to taking all these manner of medications that are toxic to the kidneys. So yes, there's been an upsurge they are now carrying out research on it. And this is actually a clarion call to all bodies, to all corporate organizations, to the government, to continue to support their work so that they'll be able to carry out the research, come out with their findings, and be able to put in measures that can reduce the burden of kidney disease in Ghana. Our next question says that do aphrodisiacs have any role to play in the increasing number of kidney disease cases among the youth?
Well, so that's a problem currently, because I mean it's quite common among the youth these days. The unfortunate part is that there's a wide variety of these aphrodisiacs, and again, herbs makeup or herbal preparations make up a huge. I've actually gone through the market and I've seen all kinds of funny names which are purported to either enlarge manhood or give potency to men and all that. So again, we don't know what's in those things, and there's been a rampant use of these things. So this definitely could be contributory to the fact that there's a rise in, especially amongst the youth. Again, I would say that we definitely have prescribed medications for men who have erectile dysfunction. And so when you talk to your doctor, they can be able to assess you and give you the right medication, rather than you going to the wayside on the black market and buying in all these, excuse me to say, Chinese herbs that we don't know what actually it's in it. So we really need to be careful and put a stop to these habits or practices if you are engaged in them. And again, if you've been taking these for long, you probably need to go check your kidneys as well.
If you have been taking these, you probably do need, and you actually do need to go have your kidneys checked out to ensure that it is picked up early if indeed you have kidney disease, and the right management protocols can be put in place. Now, to our very last question, I want to find out from you, what are your final words regarding kidney health, and also to our younger brothers currently, following the same path that we followed while on the campus of PESEC? What are your final words?
Yeah, so kidney disease is a menace. It's troublesome. It's increasing. The youth or the young people are not spared. So we should all live healthy lifestyles. There's a role everyone needs to play in preventing this surge in kidney disease. There's a role that the individual must play to live healthy lifestyle. There's a role that the clinicians or the doctors and nurses should play to help detect these and educate patients. And there's a role that the government and other institutions should play to help put these things together, provide the necessary environment, funding, whatsoever, to be able to help the clinicians carry out their jobs. And one other appeal would be that nephrology really should be identified as well. Nephrology, the study of kidney disease, or doctors and nurses involved in that, should be identified as a priority area, because as it stands now, very few nephrologists in the country, with the increasing burden of that. And if you go into the WHO figures, very, very few. We actually have less than one nephrologist per million population. And that is outrageous, So it's quite a difficult thing, and we should be able to assist in sponsoring people, making the training in nephrology more accessible to people. But again, education is key, and we should all do our best to live healthy lifestyles and protect ourselves. When was the last time you checked your kidney function?
That would have been last year. Thankfully, my department organized one. In truth, if they had not organized it, I don't think I probably would have had it done, because I feel like I'm a young, fit man. So yeah, that is a message to me. That is a message
so
to
I
me.
do check my kidney function every 6 months. Fortunately, I don't see myself as having any risk factors. And my creatinine is usually ranging around 70. One time I did, and it was 97. It was a rise, and I got scared. What is happening? I drank a lot of water, tried to keep fit and all that. Went to check it, and it's back to 70. So once you do that and you know that there's a rise, then you can institute measures in that. So I'd appeal to everyone, if you've not had your kidney function, your kidneys checked, your urine tested, your blood pressures, your blood sugars tested, your blood test for serum creatinine and GFR calculated, please do so now.
This coming from the kidney specialist. He actually checks his kidney every 6 months. A very young and fit man. I mean, if you are watching us live on YouTube, you can see it for yourself. And yet he checks every 6 months. What excuse do you have? Let's try as much as possible to check our kidneys periodically. Now to our juniors, the ones who are currently in PESEC. Do you have any message for them? And what are your general impressions of ỌDADEƐ Radio, our studio.
Wow, this is amazing. I mean, this is my first time here. Okay. I've heard ОДАДЕƐ Radio, but I mean, coming into the studios is amazing. And thanks to the year group, 1981 year
ОДАDЕƐ 81, yeah, exactly.
We're very grateful for this, and I think we should make use of this more to be able to reach out to more ОДАDEƐs. And in fact, all of us, the whole country, we should be able to reach out to that. So very, very nice environment. And I mean, to the younger colleagues, it's always nice seeing when I'm driving through town and I see someone in a blue shirt, blue.
So if I can interrupt, can I interrupt? Please, if you are listening to us as a student, you will have to pay close attention, because this is one of the legends of PSEC. So please pay close attention to what he has for you.
No, okay. I mean, generally, I'm quite excited anytime I see a PSEC student in town, you know, in their blue. Sometimes I'm tempted to stop and just say hi and all that. Yeah, but I think that this is the best institution you can have for yourself in this country. You are privileged to be here, and then you must make good use of your time here. Academically and building your whole moral life, spiritual life, this is the best institution. We are always available. You can reach out to us if you have any interest in whatever we're doing. It doesn't have to be medicine or anything, but I mean, we could always have discussion. Our doors are always open. And I'll be encouraging most of you to come in. As nephrologists, I would really like to have quite a number of ОДАДЕƐ nephrologists that we can work together to improve kidney health in the country. So please, work hard, study hard, and then do what you are best at. And we'll be expecting our next
trophy.
Yes, National Science and Maths Quiz trophy this year.
Definitely.
So those in the team, you guys have to sit up. Unfortunately, we've been out of the game for long, so we don't even know what's going on. But
I think your year group won, right?
They
definitely did. Yeah, so this is coming from one of our legends, ỌDADEƐ, Dr. Abdul Jalil Inusa, who spent this beautiful Wednesday afternoon with us, educating us on what kidney diseases are and what we can do to stem the tide in the rising numbers of kidney disease cases, especially among the youth in Ghana. It's been a lovely afternoon with you, and we want to say a very big thank you from the entire crew of ỌDADEƐ Radio, ỌDADEƐ Health Matters. We want to say thank you very much. We want to see you more. Come around and, you know, educate us some more, and of course, let your mojo rub off on some of the students, on all the students, I should say, so that they can rise and also continue to contribute one day as important members of society like you are doing. So yes, that is it. We have been with ỌDADEƐ Dr. Abdul Jalil Inusa, who is a senior physician specialist and a kidney specialist, what we would often call a nephrologist, with the renal unit, that is the kidney unit of the internal medicine and therapeutics department of the Kolebu Teaching Hospital. He is also a fellow of the International Society of Nephrology and a member of the West African College of Physicians. What I did not mention is that he has a master's in public health, and yes, he's come this afternoon. He's done a great job at that. An orator. I don't know if you're part of the debate team.
No, I don't like debates.
But he says, you can see how well spoken he is, and it's not surprising. Definitely a PSEC through and through. And yes, all too soon we'll have to draw the curtains on today's edition of ỌDADEƐ Health Matters. It's been an enlightening edition. We want to say thank you so much for joining us. So from the entire crew of ỌDADEƐ Health Matters, from our executive producers, Mr. Eddie Kofi and Mr. Johnny Adufening, from our technical producers, Mr. Otu and Mr. Michael Adade, from my host ỌDADEƐ, Dr. Prince Samuel Nuama, who actually happens to be the classmate of ỌDADEƐ, Dr. Abdul Jalil Inusa, and my very self, Dr. Anafa Awuni Godwin. I want to say thank you so much for helping us shine the light on kidney disease today. We'll see you same time next week. Stay safe. Bye-bye.
Thanks for having me as well.
There's a place in your heart, and I know that it is love. And this place is much brighter than tomorrow.
ỌDADEƐ Radio. Like us on Facebook at ỌDADEƐ Radio. Follow us on Instagram and Twitter at ỌDADEƐ Radio. You can WhatsApp or call us on 0200-092925. ỌDADEƐ Radio. Like us on Facebook at ỌDADEƐ Radio. Follow us on Instagram and Twitter at ỌDADEƐ Radio. You can WhatsApp or call us on 0200-092925.